Hello, I'm Yasmin Ali. I'm a chemical engineer and I work in energy. We all rely on energy pretty much all of the time. It powers cars and buses to get us around, lights and life-saving machines in hospitals, and also all of the devices that you're using right now. I absolutely love working in this sector, but I will be honest, some days it can feel like complete doom and gloom. It's all fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions, climate change, and it's very complicated. It's an interconnected tangle of different types of fuels, power stations, underground pipelines, overhead cables, petrol stations, factories, and that list goes on and on. But I don't believe that it is all doom and gloom. And with the help of some engineers, I want to untangle this mess by taking you on the journey that energy goes through and showing you that we are at the start of a transition to a much better energy future. We'll travel through 3 stages: getting energy, moving energy, and using energy. So let's meet our first engineer, Hayley Loren, who is an offshore wind engineer and the STEM careers coach. Hi, Hayley. So I want to start at the beginning of the energy journey, and that's around getting energy. So traditionally, we've relied on getting coal, oil, and gas out of the ground, but how is this changing?
Yeah, it's actually really fascinating because renewables is a really young industry. So it's only been around since the early 2000s, and it didn't significantly contribute to the UK's energy supply until around 2012. So, that's a decade, it's young. And if you compare that to fossil fuels, so we've been using coal since about the 1930s. So that's 90 years in comparison. So what's happened over those 90 years to now is we've transitioned to a mixed energy supply. So we use nuclear, we use fossil fuels, and we use renewable energy as well. And now the aim is to go clean and green and do 100% clean energy. And here in the UK, it's, we're on an island, so it's all about wind, it's all about offshore wind, which is where I work in. And just to give you an idea of how things have changed, I remember starting my career in 2010, so pretty much at the very beginning of the offshore wind industry. And I went to this conference held by Renewable UK, and it was just in one room. It was really small, there were very few people, and it was just very downplayed. And now when you go to the conference 10 years later, it's actually called the Global Offshore Wind Conference, and it's absolutely huge, and there's thousands and thousands of people and stalls everywhere, and it's huge. And that for me just shows how much things have changed and grown.
And do you think that we can transition our energy systems?
Oh, without a doubt, because having witnessed it firsthand, having seen the rapid change, despite some of the setbacks that we had in the initial few years. So we had to overcome challenges with the cost of energy. So we had to think about standardization of the designs. And if you can get over that when you've got resistance, because some people also weren't believing as much in renewable energy at that point, if you can do that then and look at what we've achieved, just imagine what we can do when we've got a common united goal. But what we really need, in my opinion, is people. We need people to help, basically, because we want to speed up the process as much as possible. And we need people, so engineers and scientists and project managers, or anyone really who is passionate about helping the environment and the planet and wanting to make a difference. And one thing that I always say to my coaching clients is that if you believe in the work that you're doing, and if you feel like you've got purpose to it, then you will feel happier and fulfilled in your career. So that's me trying to sell, trying to work in wind and renewables and helping the planet.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Hayley. Of course, generating electricity is just the beginning, and that electricity has to be moved from a wind farm in the middle of the sea in some cases to where it's actually used. And that's where Carolina Escudero comes in. She has a background in electrical engineering. Hi, Carolina. So all that electricity that Hayley's wind farms generate, how does that get shifted to where it's needed?
So actually, it's quite an interesting process. So when we go into a room, we switch on the lights and they come on immediately. That is done by keeping exactly the demand and generation in our network exactly the same. The distribution and the transmission network has been built to take big power from, let's say, the offshore wind farms and other very large generators, from the generators down to coppers and wires to our homes. However, the way that it was generated and designed at that time was very much of a flow from one big generating plant to our homes. And now that's changing. We have quite a lot of PV in our roofs. We have as well as other generating plants that are a bit smaller. And now we're seeing that the flow of electricity is not just going one way, but it's also flowing in the other direction.
So how are these systems changing?
Well, it's a very interesting time to be working in the networks, because not only do we have the advent of all of the renewable generation, which is a key enabler for us to reach our net zero goals, but we also have electric vehicles or the electric mobility. So all of that will need charging and therefore more electricity, as well as we're seeing electrification of heat. So in certain cases, we're seeing a lot of heat pumps instead of gas boilers as we move away from fossil fuels. So all of these are new users of the system, and we just need to invest in our networks to make sure that the power is there whenever you switch on this switch.
Amazing. And are we going to be okay?
We are going to be okay. I think as long as we continue working on these exciting fields and putting in a lot of new technologies to work in our favor, we're going to be just fine.
Brilliant. Thank you, Carolina.
Bye, everyone.
At the other end of that delivery system, electricity goes on to be used for all sorts of things. And some of them you can see all around you, but others are a lot less obvious. Erusa Adizie, who's our next engineer, works on making cement manufacturing more sustainable. Hello, Erusa.
Hello.
So first of all, why should we care about cement and how does it interact with energy?
So cement is the major constituent when we make concrete, and concrete is one of the most versatile materials in the world. So it's actually the second most used material outside of water, and concrete is really versatile. We use it to make a lot of the buildings, roads, bridges, and also we'll need it in the future to make, to develop all of these renewable energy sources that will be essential, such as wind farms, hydro plants, dams, and also with gravity energy storage. But a big issue with cement is that to make it produce a lot of emissions, we call these process emissions, for example, and then it's also a really energy intensive process. So lots of cement manufacturers are looking at ways to make the whole process more energy efficient. So using electricity, maybe recovering the heat from the processes, which means we'll need less electricity. And then also using fuels that will displace fossil fuels such as coal, maybe using biomass or other types of waste fuels such as tires, which is really amazing because you're using a product that would have just gone to landfill.
Cool. And have you got this all sorted, or do you need others to come and help you?
We wish we had it sorted. So we definitely need other people, engineers, scientists, everyone else who wants to play a role in getting us to net zero. So obviously we need a lot more renewable energy sources onto the system, but then we also need people who want to work in these hard to decarbonize sectors such as steel, cement, glass. So we need people there because there are lots of different fields that are going to be even more important in the future. So we'll need people to work in that and develop that. So everyone's welcome.
Thank you very much, Erusa. That was just one possible pathway for energy to travel, from a wind farm through cables onto a cement manufacturing site. There are lots of other routes, and it isn't just about electricity. We use huge amounts of energy in other forms, like natural gas moved in pipelines used for heating, or liquid fossil fuels used to power airplanes. And we definitely haven't solved the energy sustainability problem yet. We've got a long road ahead, but we are on the right track. And as you've seen, there are some absolutely amazing women who are driving these changes, and many more who will lead us to a better energy future.